just don't see it any other way. I'm too weak to make the climb. I need a miracle this time. That's when.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio in the town of Geraldine, Alabama. You can find us on the web, icradio.media, and you can download our apps and listen to our awesome gospel music that airs every day. And that's 24/7. You can also find us on television. Locally, we're found on channel 182 on Charter Communications. That's all of North Alabama. And then worldwide, we're really happy to be with Abundant TV, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Again, thank you so much for watching. We're going to get right into it today. How to help your child get motivated in school. You know, now I needed no motivation. I loved going to school. And it was just a fun time for me. I was always anxious to learn new things and be with my friends and all those kinds. Besides, back in that day, you just simply went. You had no choice. So it was either that or, you know, I would rather go to school than some of the things that be put to work at home. So anyway, maybe we need to learn, you know, if you go back into just a few of the basics from back in the day. But I wanted to read this to you just for a second. Now, this is found on this website, childmind.org, childmind.org. This is a really good site right here. And so a quick read on this right here is it's common for kids to lack motivation in school. Sometimes it happens because the child has ADHD, which I'm pretty suspicious that's what I had growing up. It was called misbehaving back in that day. And anxiety, social challenges, or learning disability. But other times, kids without a diagnosable problem still have trouble just living up to the potential in school. There's so much distraction out there these days. There are a few ways that parents can encourage kids to put more effort at school. Now, one way you can do that is by showing kids that you care about their school work. You know, not one of those rush jobs where the kid comes in from school, you come in from work, hurry up, show me your homework, hurry up, show me. Not that way, because they feel too rushed. They've been rushed all day at school. Home needs to be kind of an oasis for kids and for you when you get back home from a rough day of work. So let's just find out how we can help these kids with homework. Ask what they're learning and what they like and what they don't like. You need to know both, okay? Also, ask about homework assignments. With older kids, just be sure to give them a little space too. They sense that you're pressuring them, so that might end up feeling resentful and less motivated. Now, using positive reinforcement helps. And this is what I used to do with Brad, and it really helped. It was called the sandwich effect. I had a boss who used that with me, and it was a good motivator because what she would do is she would tell me the good things I'm doing on the job. This is my first management position. And it's about 25 years old, still a kid, still wet behind the ears. And so she would kind of give me a little praise report on what I was doing good. And then she would give me improvements, things I needed to work on in the job. And it was mostly staying motivated to be organized. She said, you're motivated, but not to be organized. And us kids, I mean, us adults are almost like kid-like, okay? So, and sometimes it just needs to be sent down to the lowest common denominator to get it figured out. Then she would end on a praise note. And that's what you do when you're raising kids. I just think that that's really, because if you start out bashing and not even throw anything good in there, and then you just, the entire thing is a bash session, they're not going to listen. They're going to be not motivated at all. You don't need to give kids big rewards, but even small ones like a high five or a few extra minutes of screen time can make a difference. And it's also important to praise effort, not results. Praise effort, not results, okay? For example, praise your child for finishing a tough assignment or taking a class that might be hard. Nobody gets top grades all the time, so make sure the child knows you don't expect perfection. You can also bring in reinforcements if schoolwork is becoming sort of a conflict for you and your child. You could hire an older student at your child's school or a nearby college to help monitor schoolwork, or a nearby college, or even monitor their homework and ease stress on the family. If you live in a college town, you can always find a tutor to help, because there are a lot of kids who are going to college, like Jack State was really, I mean, I never used them, but I've heard a lot of folks did. And we've got Northeast Alabama Community College, we have Sneed College, and all these that, students are going to, they want to teach. And, that's just one way for them to help with their grades by volunteering to help with your child. So it's good. Go ahead and check that out and see if that's available. Finally, be sure to keep tabs on your own feelings. If you're very frustrated, they know that, by the way. If you're very frustrated or angry about your child's school performance, a therapist or support group can help. And if you're going to use some kind of a support group, it would behoove you to do a faith-based type. Okay, I don't know. I just get more luck, I think, out of that because it's based on biblical principles. But now you need to vent those groups out. Okay, make sure they're what they say they are. Okay, now if you have a child who's struggling, don't want to be motivated, what you need to do is you need to get involved. Okay. First of all, showing you care enough to be involved is worth so much more than you could ever know. Okay, let's see. As a parent, your presence in the academic life of your child is crucial to their commitment for this to work. Do homework with your child. Let them know that you're available to answer questions. Get in the habit of asking your child what they learned in school and generally engage. Just, motivate. Talk about have little examples of when you were in school. It's okay to say, I really wasn't that good in English, but I was really super good in math. And I say, you got those math skills rocking. Do that. And you'll be amazed at what that helps. That you're building confidence in them. By demonstrating your interest in your child's life, you're showing that the school can be exciting and interesting. This is especially effective with young kids who tend to be excited about whatever you're excited about. That is so true. You're the leader. You're the parent. Teenagers can bristle if they feel you're asking too many questions. So make sure you're sharing the details of your day too. Likewise, it's important to stay involved, but give older kids a little more space. If you're on top of your kid all the time on the homework, they're going to develop a resistance and be less motivated to work. Now, use reinforcement. Many parents are nervous about rewarding their kids for good work. I never was. It could be some little tiny something like we mentioned just a few minutes ago. It's true that tangible rewards can turn into a slippery slope, but there are ways to use motivation that will eventually be internalized by your kid. Kids respond really well with social reinforcers like praises, hugs, high fives, and those kinds of things. This is Laura Phillips. She's a physical psychologist at the Child Mind Institute. And when they start to receive it, because it makes them feel good. And that's what it's all about. Now, you have to correct kids. I hear a lot of stuff about, praise, and that's awesome. You've got to, because you're going to wear down on their mental abilities, or they don't have self-confidence. But you've got to also reinforce, when they're doing something wrong. Okay, now, this institute encourages parents to use rewarding activities that would have probably occurred either way, but placing them after a set amount of time doing homework. They also suggest that treats are easy to provide, but that your child will enjoy going for ice cream or sharing a candy bar. Also recommends breaking work up in chunks and using small breaks as rewards for getting through each chunk. How do you eat an elephant? You've heard this. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And it's raising kids. I'm sorry, but it's just that way. Reward effort rather than outcome. This one is super important. Rewarding effort rather than outcome. Now, the message that you want to send is that you respect the kids' hard work. Praising kids for following through when things get difficult, for making a sustained effort is so important. Praising kids for trying that if they're not sure they can be successful, or I'll help them with the pleasure of pushing themselves. I feel like we don't have a lot of emphasis on kids pushing themselves anymore. And all this, where everybody gets a trophy, I just don't think that's good for kids. So if that's the way the schools rock, well, then you got to think of a way at home where they have to put forth a lot of effort. Praise good grades that come easily can make kids feel like they shouldn't have to exert themselves. So I know I've seen a lot of psychology being put in there, just only praise them on the good grades. I think you got to praise them also in little steps at a time, tiny little steps, but praising those kids also when it comes to the bad grades. You got to work on that. Help them see the big picture. And sometimes you got to see the big picture before they can see the big picture. For older kids who have developed an understanding of delayed gratification, sometimes simple reminders of their long-term goals can help push them. It can help many high school seniors who slack off after getting into college to remind them that they could lose their acceptance if their grades drop too much, or they might not be prepared for college courses. Linking school up with their long-term goals can make them feel more personally fulfilling, explains Dr. Phillips. And who is this website, by the way? I'm going ahead and let you have that website again. It's called childmind.org. You'll find all kinds of great things on emphasizing your kids and helping them to learn. Let them make mistakes. Oh, man, that's the hardest thing in the world. You want to do it for them. I totally get it. I was that way too. But if they learn, just think about yourself. Okay, the things you have learned, the things you could probably write a book about are things you've made mistakes on, right? Because, I mean, I could write volumes of mistakes and how I made the mistake and how you can turn right around and try a different way and make it work. Kids are the same way. That's how they learn. No one can get straight A's on every test or perfect scores on every assignment. While kids need encouragement, it's healthy to push them to try their best. It's easy to push them to try their best. You got to do that. Know that their setbacks are natural. Sometimes the only way kids learn how to properly prepare for school is by finding out what happens when they're unprepared. Now, what do you mean by unprepared? Let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about knowing that setbacks are natural. So I'm going to go on ahead and click on this link. By the way, childmind.org is a good website. Okay. Parents tend to see their mission as helping their kids succeed, but there's a growing realization among teachers and other professionals who work with children that kids increasingly need to know how learning how to fail is important. Yes. Because that life's not roses, just like your parents, your grandparents told you. It's not. There are going to be some pitfalls. You're going to have to jump a few hurdles. You know, you have your full plan. This is on up in life, okay? When you get out on your own, you got to prepare kids for that. Because if they think, oh, everything's going to be easy, and then they get out into the real world and they got Mr. and Mrs. Boss Man, it's not the way it's going to be. By learning to tolerate failure, kids can lead to anxiety. You know, we hear this all the time about kids can't take anything anymore like we used to. They could if we'd let them. I think that's probably the issue. It leads to meltdowns when the inevitable failure does occur, whether it happens in preschool or it happens in college. And perhaps even more important, it can make kids give up trying new things. You got to try new things. That's why Michael Jordan, who's one of the world's greatest athletes, has spent years preaching the importance of losing. Yeah, he talks more about losing than talking about winning. Jordan has spoken extensively about how perseverance and resilience in the face of challenges on and off the court are what have made him an absolute winner. Unfortunately, as the world puts increased pressure on kids to be winners and parents feel compelled to enable them in every possible way, we're seeing more and more kids who become distraught, even over the smallest little details. You know, we talk about, well, when we were kids, you know, we did this. We were able to take things. We were able to take challenges. But our parents didn't really pet us on every little thing either. You know, really. We had to learn the hard way. And it's okay, really. Take Sarah's son, John, who started taking piano lessons at 6 years old. Now, every single time he played a wrong note, he would pick up the music booklet and hit himself on the head with it, she says. His piano teacher said she's never seen a kid who was so hard on himself. I told him when he made a mistake to treat himself the way he'd treat his younger cousin, that no one can learn if someone is being mean to them, and that he wasn't allowed to be mean to himself. Yeah, that's really important. I had a boss one time who said, you know what? I don't have to beat you up. You do it yourself when you make mistakes. And it's okay to admit that. You got to own up to mistakes, okay? But you've also got to, what did I learn from this? What did I learn from this mistake? Make it better. When Alicia's daughter, Sarah, was 14, she became so distraught over not getting into a selective high school While her friends did it, she began to self-harm. It was so terrible, the pressure, the disappointment, says Alicia. You know, be careful who your kids hang out with. That's another reason for that. You know, we talk about that often. Know who they hang with, okay? Could be some bullies in that crowd. We don't want that. Clearly, distress or frustration tolerance is an important life skill to master. When it comes to school, the ability to tolerate imperfection, that something is not going exactly your way, is oftentimes more important to learn than whatever the content subject is. This is what Amanda Mentzer says. She is a clinical psychologist at the Child Mind Institute. Building that skill set is necessary for kids to be able to become more independent and succeed in future endeavors, whether it's personal goals, academic goals, or just learning how to effectively deal with other people. So, how do parents teach kids to fail? That just seems awful, doesn't it? That you would teach your kids to fail. Let's talk about that. First, show empathy. There's a thing called sympathy, and there's a thing called empathy, and we learned about that. Empathize with your child to see that so that you can see that your child is distressed. Don't just say, it's okay, you'll do better next time. It's invalidating to brush off a child's feeling of frustration and disappointment. Instead, parents need to change their language. I see you're really disappointed. I know you really wanted to do better. Doesn't that offer a little bit more like there's going to be another chance? I mean, it really does. It helps you think, wow, yeah, okay, now let's see. It opens the door to finding out what the mistake was so you don't do it again. Make yourself a model. Oh, man, yeah. We don't want kids to see us make mistakes, do we? We think, no, they don't need to see us make. Well, you know what? I think my son, the reason he's successful is he saw my mistakes. He didn't hide them. He saw them. You can explain that failure is a part of, but wait a minute, let me mention something else. While you let your kids see that, let them also see you correct that mistake and be successful. There we go. You can explain that failure is a part of life and happens to everyone, even to you. You can share examples of failures you've had. Parents can model how to handle their own disappointment, such as losing out on a promotion at work. Sometimes you lose out on a promotion at work. It's God's will, and because God sees something better in store for you. So, and that's what I had to learn. Such as losing out on a promotion. Kids aren't necessarily exposed to the reality that life includes mistakes, missteps, and even failures. As much as everyone likes things to go accordingly to plan, it's important to teach our children that it's also okay when they don't. Make it a teachable moment. A child's failure is a chance for parents to teach acceptance and problem-solving skills. You and your child can try to come up with what she could do next time for a better chance at success. For instance, could she study differently or talk to the teacher about any problem she's having before a test? It's a balance of acceptance and change, Dr. Mentzer says. It's about accepting that the situation is what it is and building frustration tolerance while also asking, can we change something in the future? Can we learn from this? Most certainly you can. Absolutely. Just think about some of the successful, let's just talk about Mr. Ford, the inventor of Ford vehicles. He failed a lot. I mean, a lot. You need to read the autobiography on him. I mean, it was something else. I mean, you don't just try something out the first time. It's a very rarity. If they do, it's because in their mind, they've thought about mistakes that can happen. The minefield of social media. You want to get me started on social media? Yeah, let's talk about this for a minute. At the same time, kids to know that sometimes when we fail or face disappointment, it's not a lot that we can do at that moment to take care of it. We have to accept it as part of life and move on. Oh, yeah, that was one of my biggest things, just to sit there and wallow in my mistake. You can't do that. You'll never grow. You'll never learn anything. It's okay to make mistakes. Just don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's how they define insanity. You know, if it's not working, don't keep doing it. This is not Wile E. Coyote. Say a girl's friends tell her she can't hang out with her, but she sees them together on Instagram. All these other people are hanging out, but they tell your child that she can't hang with them. Okay, that can hurt them. She'll see pictures of where they were on Instagram or on Facebook. That really hurts. There are lots of emotions: frustration, disappointment, sadness, anger. So how does she deal with that? Calling friends and screaming at them only makes things worse. Absolutely it does. She could ignore it and pretend she never saw it, but that's not going to make her feel better or change what happens in the future. So how can a parent help her accept what happened? The girl might be able to get more information to make herself feel better. Perhaps you can talk to these kids in a calm way, telling them that she saw the photos and her feelings were hurt. Maybe they didn't even realize what they did. You know, a lot of times it's just ignorance. People just don't know what they've done. Maybe she'll discover a reason behind it. Maybe she did not get the answer she likes or get one at all. That leads to another life lesson. Absolutely. Sometimes we get left out. Sometimes we aren't liked. And we have to learn to cope with that truth without making the situation worse. A lot of those skills are needed for interpersonal relationships. Absolutely. Step back and allow your kids to fail. So important. It can be very tough to watch your child fall down, but she can only learn how to handle disappointment through trial and error. As books like The Blessing of a Skinned Knee and newly released Gift of Failure, How the Best Parents Can Learn to Let Their Children Let Go so their children can succeed, emphasize parents must stop hovering. Yes, otherwise they rob children of the very experiences that require problem solving and set them into the path to resilience and the confidence to take on new challenges. Absolutely. Therapy can help. Christian therapy, faith-based. If a child can't function because of the fear of failure, therapy may be called on. Even if a child doesn't have an anxiety diagnosis, she may be frozen with anxiety. Now, when that happens, Dr. Mincer says, with what's called exposure therapy, we slowly expose them to things that aren't perfect. For instance, parents will complain that homework takes forever because the child will repeatedly rip it up and start over because they're trying to be perfect, right? We're teaching kids that it's okay to misspell a word and keep going, she says. In the sessions, we might have them write a paragraph or two or make many as mistakes as they can, including sloppy handwriting. That's good. And to get them used to the idea that it's not the end of the world, we're saying, she says, we're going to practice making mistakes. We know it's uncomfortable for you. We also know that with practice, you can learn how to tolerate it. Now, parents have more ways to help their kids move beyond failure, move beyond it, right? When Alicia discovered Sarah's self-harming, she tried to set her up for success by enrolling her in a small private school. Now, she also got Sarah into therapy and tried to help her with the time and support to figure things out, allowing her the chance to feel proud of herself when she did. Now, Alicia says Sarah now is about to start her junior year. Just told me she's so glad she went there instead of one of the selective enrollments. At the time, it seemed to her like a huge failure to be rejected by those schools. But she's much happier now, no self-harming and displaying resiliency. Now, learning to fail can be painful, but kids will learn to succeed if they can acquire the skill to handle whatever life throws at them. Now, again, I wanted to mention that this website here is childmind.org, childmind.org. Okay, I've got about 5 minutes left in this segment, so I'm going to talk to you about how to make the teacher your ally. Don't expect the teacher to raise your children. That's not going to happen. That's your responsibility. Now, is the teacher an aid in raising your child? Absolutely. You need to have a good relationship with that teacher. Another one of the most important things you can do for your child is to work with the teacher. The teacher might have an additional insight about how to motivate your child or what they might be struggling with. Likewise, you can share any strategies or information that you have because you know your child better than they do. But again, they're on the outside looking in, so they know another way. I say let your kid have all the loving they can get, and that's from people who love your child enough to teach them the right way. When her son was in lower school and had only one teacher, Elizabeth would call his teacher before the first day, introducing herself and alerting the teacher that her son had ADHD and that he found it hard to focus. She would give the teacher little tips on what she found were useful with Alex, writing multi-step directions on the board, tapping him on the shoulder while walking past him, making sure he was paying attention, and other small tweaks. that would be useful to any young child, but especially essential to one with ADHD. Make sure that both the school and the home are of one accord, stresses Dr. Carruthers, and who is a clinical psychologist with childmind.org. This is another one. Dr. Carruthers often sets up a system she calls for the daily report card. With this system, the child gets points from the teacher for things like completing work and following directions the first time that your child completes those, and then brings those points home. When the parents give him small rewards, such as extra time on the iPad or playing a game together, it's got to be something they actually like doing. Now, get support for yourself, okay? But sometimes it's overwhelming. I was a single parent for a long time. Phil and I have been married now for 29 years in September, and my son is 43 years old now. And so I was a single parent for a very long time. It can be frustrating to watch your child withdraw from school, as it can be difficult for the kids to help to focus. Elizabeth says that she often feels judged as a parent for having a son who struggles so much in school. You know what I say about that? So what? Let them ramble. Let them say what they want to say. It's your responsibility for that kid, not everybody else's. Some schools have support groups for parents of kids that are less motivated. If there's not one in your school, maybe you can help create one. Because, sometimes you feel like when you're going through this issue, you think you're the only parent on earth that's putting up with this. You're not. You're not by yourself. There are other people too. And these folks would love to be in a support group. Some schools have these support groups, and if your child's school doesn't, she encourages you to set one up. I think that's a good idea. It's very comforting to hear that you're not alone, she said. It's also helpful to hear people who have gone ahead of you talk about how to navigate the school system. Find a therapist and talk to teachers. If you're feeling yourself getting really angry or frustrated with your kids, take a step back. That's extremely important as well. If you expect perfect achievement from a child who struggles in school, you'll drive yourself crazy. Oh boy, it's true. I'm not trying to get my child to be someone he's not, Elizabeth says about her efforts to help her son. I just want him to reach his potential. And again, this all came from childmind.org. Childmind.org. This is a really good one right here. You'll also find some faith-based answers in there as well. So thank you again so much for watching Afternoon Drive Home. Got just a little bit under 2 minutes left in this segment. I do appreciate you listening to us every day, Monday through Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. Central, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. I know you could be doing anything else, but you're watching us right now. We definitely appreciate that. You can find us on IC Radio. Go to our website. You can also download our apps, icradio.media. If you have an Apple phone, real easy to do. All you have to do is go to the Apple Store. And it's free, by the way, and just type in IC Radio Media. You can listen to our awesome Christian music all day long, and we also have lots and lots of other talk shows that are involved there as well. Another thing that you can do on Android, go to that Android store and type in IC Radio as well. You can find us on Charter Communications, which is found locally, North Alabama, channel 182 on Charter Communications, and also Abundant TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. You're super awesome. And I know it's hard raising kids, and I know it was back in the 1990s and the year 2000 was pretty rough, but you guys have a lot more than I had. You got social media that can influence decisions, that can influence your kids as well. Teach the kids it's not all about social media. It's about being real. Let them go outside. Let them get dirty. Let them play in the dirt. Won't hurt them. If they eat some of it, that's okay. Okay, again, thank you again so much for watching. You're the apple of my eyeballs. You most certainly are. And I look forward to seeing you on the next show. You take care, okay?
I said, God, you gotta move this mountain. I just don't see it